Back again for the final segment of this week's edition of the 5-Star Podcast of Wrestling. I'm your host, Sean Meyers, going at it solo with the absences of both Justin Lowry and Sean Saputo. This week, we've already highlighted the results of Extreme Rules, reviewed our predictions and how wrong we were in some cases. Also took a look back at Monday with the Raw recap. Now it's time for the Smackdown summary as we touch on the high points from Tuesday night's show. And overall, I thought it was a pretty darn good show. A lot of people mentioned the great flow to the show, that everyone that was out there had a chance to really shine, and I would agree with most of that. I thought that SmackDown was pretty solid this week. And the matches felt like big matches. They weren't just haphazardly thrown together without any fan interest. So I think credit to SmackDown because they have great in-ring performers, and really, you don't have to work too hard. Just give those guys storylines, give them big matches against one another, and that's all it is. It's not real complicated sometimes when you have a very talented roster to make it work. Just make sure you keep the guys on TV consistently in front of the audience. Give the audience some reason to care about these individuals and about the storylines, and let them take care of the rest. So some guys really have had a chance to shine over the last couple weeks. After being absent previously, one guy was Samoa Joe, as he got back in action against Ty Dillinger on Tuesday. Got a pretty impressive victory. And while it was disappointing that he wasn't part of Extreme Rules and the lead up to it, seems like Samoa Joe is back and certainly could be in the title picture heading into SummerSlam. Another guy who had been off TV for a while made a return last week in a match against Sin Cara, was Andrade Cien Almas. He got another match at Extreme Rules. He went 2-0 against Sin Cara and then jumped right into a marquee matchup on Tuesday that we'll get to in a matter of moments. But first, let's talk about the main event, because not only was it a match that had a lot of anticipation, but also a result after the match that was very noteworthy. It was a rematch of Extreme Rules. Nakamura, now the United States champion, after his very quick victory over Jeff Hardy in a matter of just 6 seconds, as I highlighted on the review of Extreme Rules. So Nakamura defends against Jeff Hardy, who invoked his rematch clause just 2 days later. Match itself was pretty solid, and it looked as though after about 15-20 minutes of back and forth action that Jeff Hardy might be ready to regain the title. He hit the Swanton Bomb. All of a sudden, Randy Orton shows up again. Orton, who also attacked Jeff Hardy at Extreme Rules and didn't offer an explanation for it then, comes back out. Not only cost Jeff Hardy seemingly the title, but gave him a brutal beatdown in which I think everyone watching was cringing as Randy Orton, just a few seconds after this photo was taken, grabbed the earlobe of Jeff Hardy and started ripping at it. And it was just really, in a sense, disgusting, but by the same token, it is, truly vintage heel Randy Orton. This guy is, I think, been, over the past 15 years, one of the best heels in WWE. Yes, he's certainly succeeded and had title runs as a face, and he gets a great reaction, but I think he's just more natural as a heel. His best work, I think, was always as a heel, whether it be the Legend Killer, whether it be in that storyline that he had, culminating with the match against Triple H at WrestleMania. Of course, he was the heel that was really the catalyst when Daniel Bryan rose to the top, winning the title at WrestleMania 30. So Randy Orton back as a heel, I like it. I think he needed a change. I think that the company's right now really loaded with faces, and they needed some of those guys to flip over. Well, Raw still has a problem with that, but SmackDown now has another top heel in the form of Randy Orton. And I think he and Jeff Hardy just works for me. I know, my co-host Justin Lowry wasn't too thrilled with the idea of Hardy and Orton when they first teased it a few months ago. But the dynamic has changed. Now Randy Orton is a heel, a vicious heel, and I think just that quickly between Sunday and Tuesday, he is right back in being a very interesting character because, just how vicious is this guy going to get? What's he going to do next as a heel to make the fans hate him? Certainly he seems to really thrive in this role. So it should be fun to watch. And Jeff Hardy, of course, a natural face. I really like what he's done since he's moved to SmackDown with just a new look. The face paint is just awesome. He closes his eyes and he has the painted on eyes. It's good storyline upcoming, I think, between these two, and more than likely a match should deliver as well as if they go that route at SummerSlam. And for Nakamura, where does he go from here? We'll see. He's probably done with Jeff Hardy, and he keeps the title. So, a guy that needed a title, guy that needed a big victory, got into Extreme Rules, and now he gets a chance to run with the U.S. title, and we'll see what challenger might follow. Speaking of SummerSlam, it seemed inevitable at some point that The Miz and Daniel Bryan would square off. Some people speculated it might happen as soon as Daniel Bryan returned to the ring after his comeback match at WrestleMania. Didn't quite happen then. They kind of held off on it. They've had Daniel Bryan do some other stuff. First with Big Cass, with The Miz sort of being involved in that. Then with the Bludgeon Brothers when he reunited with Kane. Miz, again, sort of involved with it, but he was just an ancillary part of all of this. Well, now it seems with Kane injured, and that it appears to be a very serious and legitimate injury, looks like they are full steam ahead with Daniel Bryan and The Miz finally getting their one-on-one feud after years and years of build-up. And really, they went about this with The Miz sort of unsolicited, just kind of, making a mockery of Kane's injury. And you see here the funeral that he held, the eulogy to Kane with the mask out there. Kane's going to be out for a long, long time, and then The Miz also took the chance to take shots at Daniel Bryan, run him down, say that his best days are behind him, that he's no longer a WrestleMania main eventer. The one real aspect to this storyline is Daniel Bryan's contract status. Word broke last weekend that he had seemingly signed a new contract. That has since seemingly been rebuked. So we don't know right now if Daniel Bryan has signed a new contract, if he intends to sign one. Nonetheless, he's under contract through SummerSlam, so they did not want to take that risk of missing out on this big money-making storyline. So they're going seemingly Miz and Daniel Bryan. After The Miz was holding this funeral, Daniel Bryan had seen enough, came out from behind, sort of a heel-like tactic, and beat down The Miz before he ultimately escaped, and then Daniel Bryan took out some security guards that were there. But I think this is probably the right time. Yes, it would be sweeter if they were able to hold off till WrestleMania, but with the guys on the same show, I don't think you can really do that. I mean, how much time can you kill with both of them doing other things and not really crossing paths? It already seemed like it had taken too long to get to this point after they sort of went through some side stories with Big Cass and with the Bludgeon Brothers. And I mentioned before Andrade Cien Almas getting a push, getting a pay-per-view pre-show match against Sin Cara. Well, he got about the best possible match you could get on TV this week as he challenged AJ Styles. No, it was not for the WWE Championship, but what a dream match between these two. And it was a very good match. Not great. I think that great could happen if they have a pay-per-view match between these two, but that could be, months or even years down the road. But for Andrade Cien Almas, he got to show off his stuff against a meaningful opponent. Fans really don't care too much about Sin Cara at this point. So, hey, yeah, Andrade looks great, but what do I care? It's against Sin Cara. You don't have that same mindset when he's going against AJ Styles. So, a way to really introduce him to the masses in terms of a big-time match. My complaint about this one, however, is I think you needed to build up Andrade Cien Almas a little bit more. When you look at him, I think he's had 2 squash matches and 2 matches with Sin Cara. So, yeah, he got the call-up. They started showing the vignettes right after WrestleMania. It took quite a while for him to actually get in the ring. Then he was taken off TV for a little while after he and Sin Cara started their feud. Then they finally finished it off. So, if they had given him steady TV time building up, maybe this match would have meant a little bit more, but I think there was just too many fans who didn't really know who Andrade Cien Almas was or don't really care about him at this point because unlike NXT where he was a superstar, he's really not looked as such thus far because he's just been used sparingly and a pretty insignificant opponent was in the storyline with him. So maybe do Sin Cara right off the bat. Maybe move him to someone like a Kofi Kingston, as Justin Lowry had suggested, to get him some more interest. And then after that, maybe you have him and AJ Styles go at it once. Although, truthfully, I would have preferred if they would have held off on this match until maybe a pay-per-view late this year. I think Andrade Cien Almas is good enough in the ring to go toe-to-toe with AJ Styles right now. But as far as his character, as far as his fan reaction, and his importance on the Smackdown brand, it's just not there yet. But, that's nitpicking because, again, these guys had a good match. You want to have good weekly programming, and a match like this certainly added to what Smackdown brought to the table on Tuesday night. Ultimately, AJ Styles won with the calf crusher, but I think in the process it did elevate Andrade Cien Almas, which I'm sure was one of the big goals. So you kind of kill two birds with one stone there. You get AJ in a good TV match that makes the show better overall, and you hope at least that you increase the stock of one of your new standouts in Andrade Cien Almas. So, I think that while I probably would have gone another direction, there was certainly a lot of positives that came along with that match between Andrade Cien Almas and AJ Styles. Overall, thumbs up to SmackDown. I mean, some other notable things that happened. Becky Lynch continues to climb seemingly towards a title opportunity. Looks like she will be challenging Carmella at SummerSlam. Will she be the one to finally knock off Carmella after Charlotte and Asuka failed? I don't know, but it's good to see Becky Lynch get that opportunity. I would love to see a better champion for her to go against. Nothing against Carmella, but she's just not at the same caliber as so many of the other women on the main roster right now. Other than that, again, we saw Samoa Joe return. That's a good thing. He knocked off Ty Dillinger very easily. Not sure that Ty Dillinger's, much of an opponent for a guy like Samoa Joe, but at least you got him back on TV. So we'll see where things go. There's a lot of possibilities on SmackDown with all the great talent they have, and now adding some guys back into the fold, like a Randy Orton, like a Samoa Joe, like Andrade Cien Almas. The show will only get better and better in the weeks and months to come, especially as they turn up the intensity over the next month, heading to the biggest party of the summer in SummerSlam. That's going to do it for this SmackDown summary on this portion of the 5-Star Podcast of Wrestling. Once again, your host, Sean Meyers, signing off. I want to remind you to tune in each and every week to the 5-Star Podcast of Wrestling. You can check us out on Twitter. 5-Star Pod Wrestle is the handle. And also, don't forget to check out our YouTube channel and subscribe so you can see all of our latest videos. But that's going to do it for today. We'll be back again next week on the 5-Star Podcast of Wrestling.